If Young Boys Incorporated was the McDonald's of the Motor City drug trade, then the Pony Down Gang, the Davis Family Gang, and the Curry Brothers Gang were the Burger King, Wendy's, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. These narcotic franchises might have lived in the shadows of Butch Jones and YBI, but they were just as dangerous, successful, and violence, prone with simply less headlines. Those gangs were all copying the blueprint of YBI, Defaw said. That said, they were wreaking equal amounts of havoc within the city limits, while at one time you might have had a small handful of big-time organizations. By the 1980s, these types of groups were sprouting up all over the place, simply following the path set up by the Young Boys. The only one of these gangs who actually tried to take the Young Boys on head-to-head was the Pony Down crew. While the Davis and the Currys carved out obvious non-YBI territory for themselves to make a living, the Pony Down gang had the gall to plant its flag in the middle of the Young Boys' well-established West Side turf, start poaching their roster of employees, and enter into a direct competition with them by trying to undercut their prices. From the very start, it was war. Pony Down was started by Leroy Buttrom and got its name from the gang's trademark pony brand shoes and athletic gear, worn in direct and purposeful contrast to YBI's signature Adidas brand. Unlike Butch Jones, Baby Ray Peoples, and Black Marshall, who were all basically teenagers when they started YBI, Buttrom was just short of his 30th birthday when he founded Pony Down in 1980. A junior high school dropout, Buttrom took his first arrest in 1964 at the age of 14 for burglary. He wasn't yet 16 when he had already stacked up a rap sheet that included charges of auto theft and assault with intent to commit murder. In 1970, he took a bus for assault with intent to commit armed robbery and sentenced to 5 years in prison, of which he served 3. Paroled in 1973, Buttrom went temporarily legit, coming back to Detroit and starting a home improvement business, helping rehab houses. It didn't stick. Building his own drug empire in the exact same mold and using an identical business model as his future adversaries in YBI, Gun Buttrom recruited his best friend, Robert Bobby the Pimp Lantine, his 3 brothers, Walter Buttrom, Larry L.B. Buttrom, and Tony the Snake Buttrom, and several one-time young boy soldiers, and by the mid-1980s, the Pony Down gang was up and running in full swing. Buttrom immediately had dozens of adolescent street dealers posted across 7 Mile Road on the far northwest side of the city, slinging his own brands of slickly marketed heroin, sporting flashy names like GQ, Shotgun Special, Papa Smurf, Nod City, and Devil's Dust. Gang members at its best raided and destroyed YBI drug houses, telling YBI dealers they could either pony down or pack up and leave town. This meant they could join up with the new crew of drug bandits and turn their backs on YBI or get out of the business altogether. The phrase, "I pony down," was spray painted everywhere possible, especially on YBI property. Handwritten YBI flyers advertising its new brand of drugs and certain buy one get one free deals were ripped down from the housing project hallways and street posts and replaced with similar paraphernalia sponsored by the Pony Down Boys. These aggressive leadership tactics were more than fruitful, though, as authorities placed the gang's profit margin at $100 million annually. Moving out of the city and into a quaint residential manor in suburban Farmington Hills, Gun Buttrom went around calling himself the new and improved Butch Jones, outwardly showing his disdain for the YBI kingpin while at the same time mimicking practically every single one of his ruling methods. It was a contradiction that didn't escape Jones and his compatriots and only fueled the bitter rivalry. Tension simmered under the surface for a while. Then in late 1982, when YBI was under siege from the government, a series of violent altercations broke out between the battling drug syndicates, mostly drive-by shootings, with Buttrom and his pony-down crew making a move to seize territory when the rivals were at their weakest. After New Year's, the hostility increased and bodies started to drop. In response to Pony Down's takeover of a pair of YBI drug houses in the months after Butch Jones' jailing, YBI lieutenants George Scandalous Butch Young, Vincent Sharkey Reed, Kevin Beebe Terrell, John Potsy Pinner staged an assault on 3 teenage Pony Down drug dealers on an East Side street corner in April 1983. Driving up to the trio mid-afternoon, the YBI contingent, led by a young member of the Gang A Team enforcement unit, exited their vehicle and opened fire on them with automatic weapons. One of the boys was killed and the other 2 victims of the attack were wounded. The next month, members of Pony Down responded by beating to death a YBI associate named Douglas Pace with baseball bats and then leaving him in an abandoned house on Pickford Street. The bloodshed wasn't exclusive to YBI either. Anybody who infringed on Leroy Buttrom's rule was gambling with their lives. An independent drug peddler named William Chili Willie Hunter was killed outside a West Side apartment on June 17th, and several other dealers were gunned over the course of that summer in murders that police attributed to Pony Down's further consolidation efforts. That fall, rivals of Gun Buttrom and his brothers struck a very personal blow to the Pony Down gang and the Buttrom family itself. In an act of supreme contempt and disrespect, Leroy Buttrom's 2-year-old nephew was kidnapped in September and held him for a $100,000 ransom. The Buttrom brothers were incensed. Despite being warned numerous times to stay out of the investigation, that just wasn't realistic. Striking a blow at the organization is one thing. Attacking the Buttrom family personally took things to a whole nother level. At a police monitor drop-off of the money, Walter Buttrom and one of his henchmen disrupted the arrest of the assailants by opening fire on the man who came to make the pickup. When word of an alleged $250,000 bounty on the heads of the kidnappers reached the streets in the hours after the botched ransom drop, the Buttrom's nephew was returned unharmed before the end of the day, dropped off at a local McDonald's. The reign of Gun Buttrom and the Pony Down gang came crashing down on November 20th, 1985, when the federal government hit them with a wide-spanning 35-person, 50-count indictment featuring numerous drug and firearm and tax evasion violations. Gun Buttrom didn't stick around town to see his fellow gang and family members arrested and hauled off to jail. Once again, copying the actions of the biggest adversary, Butch Jones, Buttrom went on the lam and became a fugitive of the law. He was finally arrested after a traffic stop in Berrien Township on the west side of the state in January of 1986, apparently heading for Chicago, where the gang was said to have affiliations. Like all of his brothers, Leroy Buttrom pled guilty to the charges against him and was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. LB, the gang's reputed third in command, was back in the news after his release from jail when he pled guilty to further drug conspiracy charges stemming from a 2006 arrest in Missouri for intent to distribute marijuana and ecstasy. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, throw your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and I'll catch you on the next one. Much love, peace, blessings, and much gratitude.